Good morning all, how are you? So I thought I'd open this package today. It's a bit big for a post bag, so I thought I'd open it in its own video. It's just going to be a simple teardown really. See what's in here and maybe take a look inside. So how's the weather where you are? Oh, that's not much in quite a big box. Just that long thin tube. Yeah, we had probably the first sunny day we've had for about, I don't know, 6 months. Yesterday it was quite pleasant. Today is kind of hazy sun, but the weather forecast now is showing cloud and rain for about the next 2 weeks. Oh, right, okay, so this is an LED lamp. Operation manual of bar lamp. This product applies USB interface, touch switch, and also with strong reliability and stability, blah, blah, blah. So, yes, it's a sort of, is it 500 centimeters? No, it's much less than that. It's about 300, yeah. So it's, what's that? About a foot long. And that looks like it's some sort of touch switch implementation. And in the end there, we've got USB micro type B. They've supplied, oh, well, not an unpleasant cable. It's a really revolting colour. It's kind of ice cream. Actually, this is a bit of a worry. I suppose I should read this really. Input voltage, oh, it's got its little rubbery bit on. Input voltage, 110 to 240 volts. I don't think so, do you? Supply voltage, 5 volts DC, rated power 6 watts. But standby current 10 milliamps. That's rather alarming. I wouldn't want it to be drawing 10 milliamps when off. We could perhaps look at that and see if it actually does. The rest is kind of blah, 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 really. Right, so let's give this a try using this ice cream coloured USB cable. Oh, that's a bit sort of new and tight. But let's plug that into... Well, I won't go for the quick charge one, this QD188, which I decided I'd use today because I was playing with it yesterday, charging it up. Why won't it switch on? Oh, it has switched on. Oh, that's really dark. You can't see that. I'll have to adjust the camera. Well, that hasn't helped a lot, but you can probably just about see that it's putting out 5.3 volts. That's on port 1. Oh, that is actually the... Let's switch it to port 2. Double click, I think. Yeah. You really can't see that. 5.25 volts and 96% charged, no current being consumed. Let's plug that in. Now, can we see that 10 milliamps? Stay on display. No, it's showing no milliamps. Okay, so yes, I was charging this yesterday because I just love charging stuff. Charging batteries to me is like, well, it's not like watching grass grow or paint dry. I find it endlessly fascinating. So let's try this switch. Oh, that works. I don't think there's any brightness control on this. And I don't think there's any sort of adjustable colour. Just trying to give you an idea because it's not showing up very well on the camera. Let's change the exposure. So this is clearly warm white, but yeah, that's got a little touch switch on and off. So yeah, we should take that apart and have a look inside. So I'm trying to get this end cap off. Oh yes, it does seem like it's coming off. Yeah, that day of sunshine kind of made me start thinking about the Med workshop again, which is always on my mind. Right, I've got to push that out somehow. Try and... Does that slide in and out? Oh, that slides. Oh, something went click. Yeah, that slides. Oh, that fell off kind of. And oh, there's a spring there. That's not good because I've bent that spring now. That's obviously the touch sensor that sits under this. Oh, this has even got a little copper. Oh, that was really bad actually because that was soldered onto there. The spring was soldered onto that copper pad. Oh, well, it probably worked without it. We'll see. Yes, thinking about the Med workshop. And I was thinking down there where the sun shines pretty much all the time, unlike here where it shines not at all, you could probably get away with a much smaller workshop power supply system. So I'm kind of thinking maybe a 5-volt system would work, because you could use those folding solar panels. I've got one somewhere. I'll get one in a minute. To charge this thing, because this thing actually charges through a micro USB with 5 volts, even though the batteries in here are arranged in, well, it's a 2P4S, so 4 cells in series, but they're paired in parallel as well. So this is about 16 volts, but it charges from 5 volts. So you could charge this from a fold-up solar panel, and then this has a variable voltage output between 0 and 24 volts, and a couple of USBs as well. There's the variable voltage output. There's a high voltage input. You can charge this with a laptop power supply. It's got a quick charge output as well. So yeah, I was just wondering whether the lighting above my desk could be these 5-volt USB strips. Soldering iron could probably run off this thing if I had a low voltage soldering iron. I've got my eye on one. And the 0 to 24 volts, of course, could run any voltage into one of my projects. Right, let's zoom in, zoom a little bit. This is interesting. We've got diodes D21 all the way down to D1. So there are 21 LEDs. That's a strange number. Also, I've noticed here, look, you've got these two huge blobs of solder linking the LED board. The other thing I noticed is that each of the LEDs has a resistor. So there's nothing, well, does it? Yes, it does. That one has one right at the end. So there's nothing clever about what's on the back of this board in respect of constant current or anything like that. But what's alarming is these two large solder areas are sitting right adjacent to the aluminium extrusion. Now, I seem to remember that aluminium conducts electricity, so they're just relying on the fact that it doesn't quite touch the aluminium. That's horrible. Yeah, this LED strip, you can see it moves up and down there, but absolutely no movement in the middle there, and then it moves up and down again up at the end. I can bend that in and out. So I've got a funny feeling they've put some double-sided tape in there, and I've tried pushing on this and I can't get it to slide out. So how are we going to look at the stuff on the back of this board? I could desolder that, but quite honestly, look at that. I don't really fancy doing that. I think I'll just one possibility is to take this blade out of this knife and slide it down under this PCB and see if I can cut away the foam. I might give that a try. I think I really should bend this spring. I'm not sure whether this spring was soldered, but it's touching. Bend that spring back flat. Ooh, that's proving difficult. But it was certainly touching that copper pad, or whatever that pad is made of. Oh yeah, that's reasonably flat. Yeah, that touches the underside of that copper pad to enable that touch switch to work. I mean, it should probably work. That probably doesn't need to be slid back on. I can probably clip that back on because that's going to be flexible. Yeah, so that should work. So yeah, still trying to puzzle over how to slide this thing out. Found this long wooden kind of lollipop stick. Not quite sure where that came from, but that actually won't go between the PCB and the aluminium extrusion. I was hoping to just sort of jab away at the foam, the double-sided sticky foam that's obviously under there. How am I going to do this? Well, I'm afraid you missed that, but I was using this technique of jabbing my screwdriver under there and sort of levering it. It suddenly shot across with a very loud screeching noise. You can see how the screwdriver went that far. Yes, anyway, this has come off. There is no double-sided foam under there. So what actually was causing it to stick? Maybe they dabbed a couple of bits of glue in there or something like that. But anyway, that is out. We can look at it. So we've got a single-sided printed circuit board with LEDs each with a resistor. So my guess is they're all effectively in parallel, just running off 5 volts, which is just simply switched by this circuit. There's a little chip there, 6-pin SOT23, I think, and a transistor. So the transistor is probably the power transistor driving all of these. Let's close in on this. Right, we're going to need to go double magnifying glass for this because it is really tiny. So the little control chip, I presume it's a touch switch controller, is a 223B SNF5. The transistor, oh, that's a tricky one. I'll have to flip that round. That is, if I can get some light on it, an A2SHB, I believe that is. Well, the little transistor, turns out it's actually quite a tasty little N-channel MOSFET. It's this one, the SI2302DS. It's a 1.25 watt power dissipation and 2.5V. Now, I assume that relates to this, VGS at 2.5 volts. Means you can have a drain current of 2.4 amps. The RDS on is 115 milliohms. That's quite amazing. The gate source voltages on these things are now so much lower than they were a few years ago. 2.5 volts to turn on a MOSFET for 2.4 amps. That's amazing. The other chip, the 6-pin SOT23 chip, is actually this one, which we've seen before, the TTP223, which I didn't particularly like at the time, but it may have been just that it was poorly implemented on the PCB that it was supplied on. But it's a touchpad detector IC which offers one touch key. The Q pin is a CMOS output, so actually if this gives a full 5 volt CMOS output, then this MOSFET is going to do better than VGS 2.5 volts. It's going to be getting more like VGS 4.5 volts, in which case we've got just 85 milliohms of on resistance. Yeah, so a surprisingly tasty circuit, that one. I quite like it. Right, let's put this back in the extrusion. Put that back on, trying to get it on that touch detector. Actually, let's just put some power to this while it's out of its case. Right, plugged back into the QD188, so I just touch that spring, and these warm white LEDs all come on by virtue of our little MOSFET with its 85 milliohms on resistance, so that's not going to get very hot. And yeah, that touch switch does seem to be quite reliable. Right, so that slides back in there. There's no metallic stuff on the bottom of there, is there? No. And this board sits a little bit higher so that it's not going to touch that. Now I've got to probably want to glue that in place so it's not slipping about. I might have an idea for that. I found this while I was tidying up yesterday. This is this glue pen, so I can squeeze a little bit of glue on there, and then you shine ultraviolet at it for a while. Was it ultraviolet or was it just blue? That thing didn't have a battery. Let's see if I can find a battery. So yes, I mean, is a 5 volt workshop system viable? As I say, the soldering iron. Okay, I'll tell you which one I'm looking at. I'm looking at the TS100 as recommended by viewers the other day. Oh, there's not much to that, is there? What battery does that need? Oh, it's one of these 2016 or annoying things, isn't it? Well, I'm kind of thinking if blue light works, then surely ultraviolet would work. I've got this ultraviolet torch. Yeah, look at the way it makes those LEDs fluoresce. That's like a Knight Rider, isn't it? Right, I think that's the position, so let's, oops, that's my head. Let's poke some glue on there. That's assuming this glue is still runny. Yeah, a little bit of glue there, a little bit of glue there. Get in there. And now I'll just shine some UV light at that. Probably shouldn't stare at this. So I'll just hang that over there for a bit while I put the top back on this thing. I seem to remember this was just a few seconds. So 10 seconds of UV should be okay. I'm not quite sure what kind of UV this is and whether I should be looking at it. I'm looking at it through the camera now, so that's okay, because I don't think my camera LCD can actually emit UV. It just looks purple. That should be enough. Let's give that a try. Oh wow, yeah, that's totally rock hard. Rock hard, baby. So if you've got one of those blue cured pens, UV works just as well. Just don't shove it in your eyes. Right, that's that little end cap on. Now I want to really just push this directly downwards without any sliding action, because it was the sliding action which caused the problem with that spring. That seems to have gone in. Just put the end cap in at the other end. Yeah, that's gone in. Yeah, that is all back in one piece. Let's just try that touch switch again. And that doesn't work, but I've got a feeling that's because this QD188 doesn't have a sort of auto sense. Well, it probably only auto senses if a large current is drawn, and this probably isn't, so you have to switch that on manually. Yeah, that works perfectly well. In fact, it even works if you just hover near it. You don't actually have to touch it. I'll just get within a millimeter or so, and that seems to trigger that touch sensor. So yeah, I mean, it's perfectly sensitive enough to operate. Good. Yeah, so this thing's quite cute, isn't it? How much was it? Was it expensive? Oh no, it wasn't a lot. In fact, I'll do a postbag style where did I get it on eBay type thing. Yeah, so this is the item. It's a USB 30 centimeter 6 watt LED rigid strip hard bar light tube lamp, DC 5 volts plus touch switch. I went for this one, dimmer warm white. Can you get them without dimmer then? Oh yeah, there are no dimmers. No, I didn't go for that one because mine doesn't have a dimmer. So I went for no dimmer, but these are all out of stock. You probably can't see this. But with the dimmer, it's $4.74. I can't select the ones that are out of stock. Yes, I paid less than that, $3.70 something, for the one with no dimmer in warm white, free shipping. And these all come from, when they've got stock, that is, global.source09. So yeah, I mean, what would the viability, let's switch that back on again. What is the viability of using these sort of 5 volt lights, using a soldering iron which I can run off this thing? Actually, we should take a look, shouldn't we, at the batteries in here, because there is a reasonable amount of energy storage in here. It's got 8 18650s. As I say, they're in pairs, and it's a 2P4S arrangement. So I mean, there's a fair old amount of energy storage there. Probably not quite as much as I've got in terms of my lead acid packs outside, but yeah, I suppose I should lock these. What's the viability of using a mostly 5 volt system, but with this particular unit providing up to 24 volts, and you know, that energy coming from the sun using these sorts of solar panels? And yeah, let's go for it. Why not? Some real actual sunlight. I mean, it wouldn't work in this country, but perhaps it would work down in the Med. Cheerio.